Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in for our second episode of Beyond Service. Today we have Aaron Glazar, President and CEO of Action Unlimited Resources, and Philip St. Jacques, our WorkWave agency principal, to talk about what a marketing strategy shaped around a global crisis looks like and how COVID-19 is accelerating the growth of the janitorial and sanitation industry, forcing change and presenting opportunities for future growth. Hey guys, to kick us off, Aaron, can you give us some background about yourself and Action Unlimited Resources?
Sure. So, Action Unlimited Resources was founded by my father in 1982. He was a salesman on the street in the janitorial and sanitary maintenance supply industry. And I came on board during school and after school, got involved in the business and just enjoyed it. Worked out in the warehouse, and I've worked in several different departments around the company. And kind of fast forward to today, I'm still involved in the business.
Still involved, slightly. President
Yes,
CEO, just slightly.
slightly, yes.
Awesome. And Phil, if we can jump to you, can you give our audience who maybe isn't familiar with you, hasn't spoken with you at WorkWave Agency, just a bit of background on you and your team?
Yeah, sounds great. So me and my twin brother Mike lead the internal agency for WorkWave. It's we really just focus on lead generation and driving growth for companies of all different sizes, mostly software clients, mostly field service clients, but we really develop strategies for like the very large, like enterprise level companies, mid-level size companies, kind of like Aaron and Action Unlimited, and also the very small folks as well, like, one tech, two techs in a truck.
Great. I love introducing Phil and his brother Mike because if anyone doesn't know, they're twins. They look alike. So I tell them if you walk past the same person in the hallway, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. So fellas, before we jump in, this is to our audience. This is for everyone watching out there. If anyone has any questions for Aaron, for Phil, probably not myself, but at least for them, feel free, pop them in the comments section. We'll try to get through as many as we possibly can during this time or possibly at the end. But let's jump into it ourselves. So Aaron, you've been a customer of ours for a few years. First, you started with us using WorkWave Route Manager tool, but recently more closely working with Phil and the agency team. When you first signed on with the team back in February, what were your original marketing goals for 2020, let's say pre-COVID, 19?
So we've known for several years that we wanted to start a digital marketing initiative designed really to generate inbound leads. And we've really struggled with it for several years now. So the basic concepts, I think we as a team have understood for quite some time, but actually getting to the point where we had a strategy that could be executed to the point of success is where we've really struggled. And so coming into this year, I would say going into the year, it wasn't really at the forefront of our strategy. And after we were introduced to WorkWave, it kind of jump-started that again and got us back on track, thinking that this is the right direction for us to go. And we felt very confident that we were starting down that path again with a group that really knew what they were doing.
Excellent. Yeah, leads are, from a salesperson perspective, leads are the toughest thing, but you want as many as you possibly can get. So I get that.
Yes.
But yourself, being in an essential industry in this time, your business right now is really at the forefront of a global pandemic. We're seeing a shifting attitude towards the janitorial sanitation industry. So what changes have you seen in your customers' behavior, and how has this change really affected your marketing goals?
Well, it's interesting because I think most people who are in our industry are probably very torn. From a basic human standpoint, this is not a great time, a bit scary. But inside of the industry, what's been great for us to see is many of the concepts that we've been talking about for many years are now coming to the forefront of many people's minds. So we have for years, not just inside of our organization, but our industry on the whole has really promoted the idea that cleaning is much more than just cleaning for aesthetics. When you're cleaning a facility and you're cleaning it properly, you're really helping to support the health of that facility and those who are inside of that facility. And so now, because of the pandemic, that's something that's really resonating with not only people who are in our industry or people who are cleaning their own facilities, but it seems like everybody, it's resonating with everybody now.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many conversations we have with friends of what we're doing now that we didn't do before, and we can't believe we didn't do it before. So at least there might be some change for good of things of how, and as your customers are doing and seeing things that should carry on even years from now.
We certainly hope so. Yes,
exactly. Hey Phil, if I could pivot a little bit to your team and what you've had to do from a COVID-19 response. I mean, what was your methodology, speaking specifically to Action Unlimited Resources, of a new marketing strategy for them, and what did that strategy really look like?
It's great because it was really two completely different strategies. Like when we first started talking with Aaron, it was in January, and so COVID-19 as part of the news cycle was something that was kind of happening in China, and there was really didn't. It was just like part of the news cycle, right? So coming on and working with Aaron, probably beginning in February, the strategy was, how do we make meaningful conversations with prospects to help the salespeople open doors, right? That was our challenge. It was really a B2B sale. How do we make it easier for the salespeople to open doors? That's how we kind of went in. So our methodology really, and then we had to answer one other macro question. And the question that Aaron had was, are the big players in the janitorial supply space moving to e-commerce, like the Grangers of the world, the Staples of the world, where you can literally go on and buy industrial size quantities of these materials? Is that going to be a detriment to his business if he does not have an e-commerce solution? So fundamental questions. And the hypothesis was really around, what do we not know about the janitorial supply industry that people should know? And where's the difference? Where's that difference made? So it really started with research.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what I'm thinking. You had to use brand new tactics that you probably never had thought before that were going to be impactful. I mean, specifically during COVID-19 that you had never done. I mean, is there any of those pieces you can elaborate on of how the team really had to become ingenuitive in terms of new tactics, new strategies that had never been put into place that you now had to go pretty quickly with to make sure that those leads came in?
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? So as we're kind of going through the research and we're culling through the data, COVID-19 blows up mid-March, and all of a sudden that's on everyone's mind, right? So we had to even pivot the research to now address, okay, this isn't so much a nice to have anymore. It went from, is janitorial supply, is industrial cleaning, is custodial staff, things that they do, is that really important? That wasn't even debatable anymore. It's now, okay, it's imperative, right? It's life or death, like cleaning of micro environments. And we see how difficult it is to even, get back into our own office. So after the research was completed, we were like, okay, we had to shift the marketing strategy, because the marketing strategy was really centered on arming the salespeople with something to open doors with. The problem came in is that dynamic was flipped, and all of a sudden Aaron is getting a lot of these inbound inquiries for supplies, right? Aaron, you don't have to use names, but can you tell that one story that I love about the personal protection equipment, the call you got? I tell it all the time.
There are just so many of them. I mean, I would imagine one of them that you're probably speaking about. Well, one of the things I'll say is during that time period, when we hit that March time period, we went through this period that was about a week and a half, 2 weeks, where the media was talking about the possibility of things shutting down. to immediately after that, we were getting a volume of requests that we have never seen before. The phone was just ringing off the hook. And, I think one of the things Phil was talking about was healthcare facilities that were starting to call us looking for these PPE supplies that they couldn't find anywhere. And we were just getting enormous requests. And, I could go on for hours about how our business had to shift during that time frame. But, fortunately, we've got a really strong team and everybody really pitched in. So as these requests were coming in, we were able to tap both our existing sources as well as new sources and make sure that we were able to fill that demand.
So our content strategy was really centered at the beginning around the shifting attitudes towards janitorial supply moving forward, right? Like this kind of a forward-looking strategy. But then all of a sudden, now the facilities are starting to open, right? So Delaware was one of the first states to open. It's coming up on summer. The state is starting to open. Now all these businesses have to now clean their facilities, clean, disinfect, and prove that they're ready for opening. So Aaron is like, and this came about within a matter of a week. So Aaron, and we were talking about like, well, how do we get a message to like literally every business in Delaware, like right now, like very quickly? And that's when we decided to do radio, WDEL, down in Delaware, which is like your statewide media channel.
Right.
We ran cable spots, radio spots, and that worked really well. So we had everything tied together on a landing page strategy, a disinfecting guide. We had a message around get ready to open, and the one thing that came out of research that we used a lot was the one thing people in the janitorial supply space really wanted was training, videos, content. I don't care about saving $1 on a supply. I care about, do my people know how to use this effectively, right? To be able to kind of keep disease and bacteria from getting onto a person, right? That's the goal. Protect the facility, and that'll keep the disease and the bacteria from moving onto the person. So that was really what we had to do. So I think our strategy changed like 3 or 4 times based on what was happening in the news. And the radio was great because it kind of took Action Unlimited Resources, which is a really nice business at the time, but kind of brought it to the forefront of people's minds as the trusted source for not only supplies, but the training.
That's great. Thanks, Phil. So Aaron, I'm going to put on my Captain Obvious cape and state that the landscape of the industry has changed, and it continues to change, and it probably might not go back. But I'm really curious, like, where do you personally see the janitorial, the sanitation industry heading? And then how do you plan to leverage the growth that comes with the high demand that exists today into tomorrow and whatever comes next?
Well, it's an interesting question because one of the things that our team talked about very early on was the fact that we needed to, I hate to use the term pivot because it's overused, but we needed to evolve very quickly to what was going on in the marketplace during that early time of the pandemic. And as the pandemic has gone on, what we've seen on a regular basis is these immediate demands. So like Phil was mentioning, when businesses started talking about opening back up, well, all of a sudden we had a flood of people who are asking very similar questions. What do I have to do to make sure that I can open and keep my people protected? How do we address that? As this continues to go on, what we're starting to see is some of it is still panic. So people are making decisions that, in my opinion, are not necessarily the best decision, but they're trying to calm some of this panic. My personal opinion is that how that's going to continue to evolve somewhat is going to have to do with the way that things are presented in the media, because we don't have any control over that. So topics that are brought up in the media are going to create concerns that may or may not be valid concerns. So we'll have to continue to address that. But I think there's a point at which there's going to be another change or another pivot that's going to be necessary. And I don't personally believe it's going to go back to what it was in January and February and earlier. But I think there's going to be this new landscape where there's going to be a heightened level of concern about cleanliness and disinfection and personal protection that will become normal moving forward. And I think in our space, in our industry, what's going to change is the groups that do what we do, where we're more than just providing boxes at low prices. We're really providing the expertise or the consultation to help reduce that level of fear and make sure that they have confidence moving forward. I think that's something that's going to be a differentiator for us. And so I believe that in the space that we operate, there are going to be those organizations, those companies that still just move boxes, and there's going to be a space for that. But I think there's also going to be a much greater opportunity for us to do what we've always done. But I think it's going to resonate with a much larger number of companies and organizations out there, even when things start to settle a bit with this existing pandemic.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, products are out there, but the education, the consultation, I think people are craving to hear it from experts such as yourself. So that's good. So one last question before we let you go, Phil and Aaron, and this is for Aaron. I mean, leading a company such as yours, I mean, during any time isn't easy, but during a time of crisis is really not easy. If you could give one piece of advice to everyone watching on leadership, what would that be?
One piece of advice. Well, I think one of the things for me is that it doesn't begin at the time that a crisis pops up. You know, for anyone who leads any organization, and have done it for any length of time, they know that there are crises that pop up all the time in business. And so for me, to lead through those crises, it's a matter of remaining calm and making sure that people understand that we're going to get through this, and just really focus on what has to be done today to address whatever's going on. And then thinking a little bit out into the future, what are those decisions that we have to make? And so that moving into the future, we're not going to have to readdress the same concerns that are popping up. But it's really something that happens all the time. It's not something that when a crisis pops up, all of a sudden you shift gears and move into this organization that operates in a different way. And I'm very fortunate because the team that I get the opportunity to work with, they are more than just a part of making sure that we get through a crisis like this. We get through a crisis like this more because of them than because of the things that I do personally.
Having great teams, it makes us all look like geniuses, doesn't it? It makes it look seamless having all of them. So that's great. So that's about all the time we have. So Aaron, Phil, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Greatly appreciate the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Aaron.
All right.
So we talked a lot about marketing strategy today, and a large part of that is your branding. I mean, in the spirit of rebranding, check out the segment, Beyond Service Tips and Tricks of the Trade, with Amanda Duncan on how to make the most of your logo and also make your brand look professional.
Hi, my name is Amanda Duncan, and welcome to Beyond Service Tips and Tricks of the Trade. When you own a business, you know how important it is to get your name out there. A big part of that is your company logo. It's on your website, social media, business cards, vehicles, apparel, letterhead, and everything in between. So you need it to look as clear and professional as possible. In order to give you a better understanding of how to do that, we're going to cover two topics today: color profiles and image formats. First, color profiles. This is just a fancy way of saying this version of the file is used for the web and video, and this version is used for print. The first color profile is RGB, and that's used for websites and video. If you're looking at something on a screen, those are RGB image files. The second color profile is CMYK. This is used for printing, your business cards, letterhead, flyers, etc. And the last color profiles are black and white. It's important to have your logo separately in both black and white formats because you want to make sure your logo pops regardless of whatever color background it's going to be placed on. And in certain circumstances, it's cheaper to print in one color. Now let's cover our second topic, image formats. There are 5 image formats you should have on hand in order to be able to use your logo on websites, video, and print. Each format is used for different things. You don't have to worry about what they stand for. All you have to worry about is what you need them for. The first are JPEGs. Most of you have heard of JPEGs. They're simple, flat images used for the web. The second image format is PNG. PNGs are very similar to JPEGs, but they have the option to make the background transparent. And this may not seem like a big deal, but it's really great to have on hand if someone you're working with needs it. The third is SVG. This is similar to a PNG, but it's a vector-based file used for the web. In simple terms, vector-based files can be stretched to the ends of the earth without losing quality. And the fourth and fifth formats are PDF and EPS. They are also vector-based files that are used for print. If you don't have access to these image formats of your logo and you're still in touch with your graphic designer, see if they can provide them for you now. Or if you're thinking about rebranding, feel free to contact WorkWave Agency. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Beyond Service, Tips and Tricks of the Trade.
WorkWave's annual user conference is going virtual. Due to the current environment, we've decided to move our annual user conference to a virtual experience. Conference will still take place from November 9th to November 12th. Registration will be open at the end of this month. Please watch out for more details coming soon. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.